Just remember to take the leg off because it's good to talk. I know you were there. For the meeting.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. We would like to have a flag salute followed by a brief moment of silence for Dr. Hauser, the Leona superintendent, recently passed away. So if you please rise and the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May proceed. Okay. Roll call.
Now, oops, are we, okay. Now it's on. All members present with the exception of Director Halk.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that the board will meet in executive session on January 19th, 2016 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of receiving privileged attorney communications. I'd like to call for the approval of the minutes last month.
Second.
Discussion? Vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Yes. I'd like to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? It passes. Okay, we have a presentation for the 2015 audit report by Crowley and Holleran.
I apologize in advance because we've seen them back. The stuff we're going to cover, the directors all have, and it's kind of dry, so maybe you really lucked out by not having to listen to or see it. So my name is Michael Crowley. This is Pam Halloran. We're going to cover the financial statements of your school district.
No. Oh, no. Thank you. No, we went old fashioned. We did provide you with some printed slides here, but we're going to actually really go through the bound report first. So in the maroon cover, and it's like 90 pages, and we're going to cover every one of them.
Wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't do that to you.
So if you would turn to page 1, is the independent auditor's report. Let me start by congratulating you. You got an unqualified opinion, which is
Unmodified, which is the greatest.
the highest opinion you can give. So congratulations, and congratulations to the business office for putting it together for us. We kind of go through this report for you. The first paragraph lets you know what financial statements are included in the audit, and go into management's responsibilities for those financial statements. And then the third paragraph kind of talks about the auditor's responsibility, explains what an audit is, and then the standards we are using when we do an audit. So we're using generally accepted auditing standards, we're also using generally accepted government auditing standards. That fourth paragraph talks about our opinion, which, as we already talked about, is unmodified, which is the highest one we can give. And then if you go to page 2, we see some other matters and are included there. There's we draw your attention to the change in accounting principles. So there was an adoption of a new GASB, which is the standard setter for governments, and that's been adopted in these financial statements. So that's telling you about that there. And then in the other matters, it explains some of the other required information that's included, like the management discussion and analysis, and some of the supplementary information that's required for your district. It talks about what work we did in relation to those other schedules. Some of it was not audited by us, but we look at the numbers and make sure they tie into the financial statements. There's also another schedule called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, which talks about all the federal grants that the district has. And that one is audited, and we'll talk about that later on. And then there's 2 other reports included, which we'll cover later on. One is required by government auditing standards, called the Yellow Book, and then the A133 opinion is also included. Management discussion and analysis on pages 4 to 14. We encourage you to read that at your leisure. It gives you a good narrative of what took place, so you're not looking just at numbers. And it also is comparative, so it shows the 2 years. In there's some charts as well that are give you some insight of what took place. We're not going to go through that. Management prepared that. We'll start with your first statement, which is the government-wide statement, which is on pages 15 and 16. Now, we've talked about this in the past, so there's 2 sets of statements included in your financial statements. The one is what's called the full accrual government-wide financial statements. This shows all your fixed assets. This shows all the debt, the bonds that the district has, and all your liabilities, whether short or long-term, are included here. And then there's more of the statements, the fund statements that you use to manage the school district on a regular basis. So the first statements are the government-wide statements, and this is a statement of net position, which is similar to a balance sheet if you're in the business world. It's a snapshot in time. It looks at the year end, June 30th. And you can see we have current assets of $6.7 million in government activities, the business type activities, which is the school lunch area, at $28,000. Your total non-current assets were $27.5 million. Your government activity statement, you have total assets of $34.2 million. You have this is one of the new standards, this thing called a deferred outflow resource. And this is new for the GASB 68, which was implemented this year. So this is kind of a holding place. It's not an asset, it's not a liability. It will become an expenditure in another period. So not in this period, but in the next period. So this is something new that we didn't have before, so that was $3 million. It's related to PEASers, their pension system. So and I'll talk about what GASB 68 is doing. So GASB 68 is taking your chunk of the retirement system and putting it on your balance sheets. So your chunk of that is like 0.10% of the entire PISA system. And it's showing in this case a deferred outflow, but it's also showing a liability, which is quite substantial, about $45 million that's been included in these financials that we didn't have the year before. This is, all school districts have this in Pennsylvania now, and it's just a kind of a situation in which we're trying to show readers of the financial statement what the unfunded liability is in the pension system. So that's the reason the Government Accounting Standards Board pushed and put this standard in place. So some systems are more funded than the Pennsylvania system. Some systems in other states are less funded than the Pennsylvania system. They're funded to about 45% of the actual liability. So that's going to be very apparent on the next page, page 16. And you can see on page 16, if you look toward the middle, you'll see that net pension liability proportionate share is $40 million. And then there's another new group of accounts called the deferred inflow of resources, which again related to that, which again is not a liability, not an asset, but will be recognized in another period. So this caused, when we implemented this caused the net position of the district to drop. And you can see that now our net position is negative $34 million in total for both funds, and the government funds is $33 million. This is exactly the same in every district in Pennsylvania, so this is not an anomaly of your district. Every district has the same thing going on.
Nothing to do about it.
And everything, you're paying everything that you're supposed to pay for your pension. So when you get the bill, just pay it. It's just, that's the way the system is being run, that they're not fully funding the pension plan. In New York State, there's two pension plans, the teachers' retirement system, and then the state employees' retirement system. In New York State, the teachers' retirement system is overfunded by a small amount, and the state employees' retirement system is about 98% funded. So you can see this, kind of see the reason for this, that GASB looked at it, was to get this out in public, to let people know where these pension liabilities stand.
It's all really exciting about Rochester.
The next statement is the statement of activities and changes in that position on page 17. Then this is the long-term view, and since we're a government, we show our functions and programs at the top. This is what we do here. We educate children, so those programs are up the top, and then the revenues are shown at the bottom to be able to fulfill that up with that mission. So we mostly do that through real estate taxes and state aid that comes through. So you can see those numbers there. I'll just cover some of that. The district's net function programs total $25.1 million. Last year was $24.6 million. We were general revenue of about $27.1 million, and that's an increase of about $993,000 over last year. Your property and other tax revenue increased $835,000. Your grant subsidies and contributions remained about the same at $1,439,000 decrease, so just small change. Interest income, as we've seen over the years, has been decreasing. It's now went down by $20,000 this year. Miscellaneous increased $180,000. I think there was an insurance proceeds in there. The difference between net costs of your functions and programs, which is $25.2 million, and your general revenue of $27.2 million, was an increase in net position of $2 million. And last year it was $1.5 million. So even though there's your net position is in the negative, it actually increased over the year before on this statement.
And this required a restatement of the beginning net position balance, so we did have that.
And that's shown right at the bottom, so you can see what it was before. You had your net position was $9.2 million. With the restatement, it dropped to $35.4 million negative.
Quite the swing.
So the next statements are the government fund statements, which are on pages 18. This is what you use to run the district. So these are the much more important statements. They're on a shorter term perspective. Your assets in the government funds are $7.7 million. Your liabilities are $3 million. You have deferred inflows there, but those deferred inflows are just unrecognized tax revenue. And you had an increase then in your total fund statement of $187,000 over the year before. So, it was, excuse me, it was $500,000 increase. So, not bad. It's a positive. The next statement is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance on page 20. So this is again shows a period of time, the whole year. In the government funds, you had total revenues of $33 million. Your expenditures were $30 million. Your capital outlays for facilities, acquisitions, and constructions were $900,000. Your debt service was $2.1 million. And the difference between your revenues and those expenditures was $325,000. You had other financial sources of $187,000, and again, that was some insurance proceeds. So you had an increase in your fund balance of $513,000 over the year before. So your fund balance was $3.7 million at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, it was $4.2 million. So very tight operation when we're talking about these kind of numbers. To have a slight increase of $500,000, so that's, you're running a very tight ship to have that occur. The other page, page 21, kind of details a reconciliation of the two approaches. We won't cover that. We'll take it to page 22. 22 talks about the food service. And this is the balance sheet for the food service. There's not a lot of assets here. So you can see total assets of $67,000. There's still a liability owed to the general fund. And that's detailed there, about $956,000. And then page 23 is the statement of revenues and expenses for the food service. That had total operating revenues of $500,000. Your operating expenses were $898,000. You had an operating loss then of $400,000. And then you get your grants from the state and federal, which was $372,000. So a small loss of $25,000. And following along over the years, the losses have been substantial in the food service. So this is pretty close to a break even. Congratulations on that. Then we get into the notes. So there's extensive notes included here, so we won't cover all those notes. So they start on page 27. They go to page 55. If you go to page 32, we talked about note 1, your capitalization policy. This explains what assets are recorded on the district's financial statement.
On that long-term view.
And then if you go to note 5 on page 39, you can see a summarization of the district's capital assets all listed there, placed in here. If you go to page 40 to 43, you see note 6. Note 6 talks about the debt that the districts have. It has, so it's all detailed there. The district paid $1.4 $4 million in principal and bonds during the year. And then we would show you what happened to compensated absences and the healthcare retirement benefits. Note 7 is on pages 43 to 48. And this is all new, so these are GASB 30, 68, and 71 required disclosures. You can see that the district's share of the liability is about $40 million. An interesting note on this is page 48. If you look at page 48, and you'll see one of the disclosures that GASB required was to show what would happen if the discount rate, the rate that they figured that they used when they did the actuary work, the current rate that was used was 7.5%. They wanted a disclosure that showed what if it is 1% lower and 1% higher, so, and what impact that would have on the district. So at the rate they used was 7.5, we have a $40 million liability. If it drops by just 1%, the liability goes up to $50 million. And if it goes up by 1%, to 8.5, the liability drops to $32 million. So that's how kind of a sensitive the discount, the rate, the liability is to a change in the discount rate, which is the rate of return that they are expecting on any assets that are invested. We're into our, I think, our 7th year of, well, 9th year is it? See, time goes by. For on note 8, which is on page 48 to 51. And if you remember, this is similar to what this GASB 68 did to you guys on your financial statements. GASB 45 had the disclosure for the health benefits that are given to current and retired employees of the district. That had to be shown now as a liability on the financial statements, and that just keeps increasing every year. So that's disclosed here. It talks about the annual cost being $260,000. Your contribution was $200,000, leaving a net increase in the liability of $59,000. Well, the good thing in Pennsylvania is that that is covered by the state to some degree. So your liability here is not as drastic as some other states. So that's a good thing. So some other required schedules, so on pages 56 to 61 deals with the budget. And that's required to have that in there. Your scheduled funding progress for post-employment benefits begins on page 62. So that shows you over the years that you've had that disclosure in there what has taken place. And then the 2 new schedules are for GASB 68, which will be reflected, starts on pages 63 and 64, and that shows you the pension liability and your contributions that you make to employees. On pages 65 to 66 is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and that details what federal grants the district received during the year. And then on pages 68 to 69 is a report called the Yellow Book report using government auditing standards. We covered the internal controls the district has, financial reporting, which is what kind of what we just did. And then your compliance with laws, regulations, and grant requirements is also there. If we had any findings in your internal controls, we kind of classify those into either deficiencies, which would be either a material weakness or a significant deficiency. We didn't have any of those.
Very pleased to say that.
I'm very pleased to say that, so good job on that. And then on pages 70 to 71 is the OMB Circular A133 report. And on this one, we kind of drilled down to your major programs. This year, we tested Title I funds. We tested the National School Lunch Program. And I'll have to again say that you have an unqualified opinion here as well.
No findings. So we look at your compliance over the, your internal controls over the compliance requirements. There's several there. And then we also look to make sure that you had compliance. And we did not have anything that we found this year that we needed to report. So that's very good news. So we really dive into these and do quite a bit. And then what page is the summary of auditors' results is on page 72 to 73. So there we had findings or question costs, and that would be costs that were related to a finding that we would have to disclose to you, which we had none, which is very good. Page 74 is the summary schedule of prior year findings. So we're also required to look at anything we found in the past and determine if it was corrected during the year. And we did have a couple of things last year that had to do with free and reduced and the verification that you have to submit. And there was also a time and effort issue. And so those were all corrected during the year. So we're very pleased to say that. So that is it on the audit report. There's also 2 loose letters in there. One is a 1-page, and that's my very favorite because it says that there were no material weaknesses during the audit. So please just say that. And then the other one that's stapled together is just letting you know what our responsibilities were in the audit. And we will let you know if we had any disagreements with management, which of course we did not. Everybody was very cooperative. We loved coming here. So we thank you for that. And it was a good audit. So we also had presented some slides for you to look through. I do like to, as Mike mentioned, there's the food service. So we do show a line chart here. And it's actually showing the gap. So our red here was our expenses, and our blue is our revenues. And you can see the expenses were well over the revenues. And in the last couple of years, they're coming together. So that's a very good trend. We know it's a hard decision, outsourcing the cafeteria, but we did want to show that in the second year we are seeing positive results financially. Any questions? Did you go over 5 minutes?
Third.
All right.
Thank you very much. We have an administrative report.
Thanks, Mr. Gray. First, I wanted to just start my report by filling the board in and the community that over the weekend I was contacted by the publication About Families, which is a Berks County, Lebanon County periodical that's sent out to the schools. And we had a student nominate one of our teachers, a first grade student named Brooke Kleinfelder, nominated Andrea Henning. And she is the Lebanon County Teacher of the Month for About Families, and I believe she's here. I just wanted to congratulate her for that. We have a lot of great teachers here in the district, and at Lickdale and Fredericksburg and all the elementary schools, and just want to thank Andre for all of her hard work. We really appreciate it. And next, I would also like to, speaking of great teachers, we have a physical education teacher that goes from Fredericksburg to Lickdale to East Hanover, and he's going to present something to you that he's been working on his own time. So, Mr. Gray.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to wake this up a while, so forgive me. I'll put in Paul's information. Okay, I'm going to be presenting on a mobile app that I created, and I wanted Northern Lebanon to be the first in the county to have an app for their school, and I want to be able to present that to you and see what everyone thinks about it. But first, I'm going to show just a brief presentation before I go into the live version of the app that I created. And it's not responding. Let's see if I can just do it again. There we go. And it's not responding.
Move your bar back. Your blue bar at the bottom.
Excuse me?
Move your blue bar at the bottom back. Your circle. Up. Go to your circle.
Little circle. Sorry. Oh, well, no wonder why it's not responding. Thank you, Dr. Bell. Okay. So, I'm going to change things up. I'm actually going to connect my phone to the projector, and then I'll be able to show you a live version of the app. Although it is not actually on the App Store as of right now, but is in the hybrid stage, it's not actually active. So, so I want you to be rest assured that it's not out there yet. That's the number one, in case there's any mistakes. I would hate for that to happen, of course. But I'd like to show you what it looks like at this point. Okay, this is the My Community, Northern Lebanon area. Together we can grow, connecting people to programs. And on this hub, we have various things that I'd like to show you. The first hub is the school hub, in which you can access all of the schools in our district. And by clicking to the right, you'll be able to go to each of the elementary schools and high school, middle school, and you will be able to get all the information you may need to be able to figure out everything there is to do about each school. You can get directions to the school if you're new by just simply clicking on the directions link, and it will automate so that you can get the phone number, you can get the website, you can navigate on your phone if you wish, if you happen to forget where it is. I don't know how many people would around this area, but anyway, there's that option. You could also do the one-touch calling, in which the phone number appears, and you can call right from the app, in which it says, since our current way to reach the school is a bunch of options, you can just see the option for Fredericksburg, and that is option 4. So you would just see the option 4, call, and then just simply press 4, and then it'll get you right to Fredericksburg without having to listen to every single option first. If I would like to contact a member of the staff, I could click on the staff button, and if I want to email, let's just say I want to email Mr. Saylor and talk about an issue or something else, I could directly send an email from this app, and you would be able to get it and be happy about it. Okay. If I were interested in the APT, I would have a direct link to the president, and I would be able to email her as well in the same way. I could get the school menu, and I could do school wellness for staff, student, and everything else about the district. And I'm going to hold off on Aunt Bertha. I'll tell you about that in a moment. We also have the athletic hub, which is huge. This took a long time to do, but my theory was that there's so many games and so many directions. There's so many things to do. How can we get there, and how do we keep everything organized? I have three kids at home, and my calendar is a big, giant mess because they're all in sports, and we're constantly saying, okay, what's tonight? Well, this will hopefully help. If you click on the boys' sports, you'll be able to click a link. I'll click on basketball. And this goes right to the boys' basketball site, in which you can get schedules and online schedule contacts. You can even get the Lebanon Daily News link for sports. If I click on schedules, I have available all the different age groups that you can choose from. If I click on varsity, you can see that there's a spreadsheet, and then you can navigate that down to see when the games are. And if I were to click on the next available, let's say the 15th, okay, Northern Lebanon has an away game at Columbia. If I wish to navigate there, I would just navigate by pressing Columbia and ignore my notification. I thought I turned it off, but anyway, it'll navigate you directly to the game. If I just want to put the address in my GPS in my car, it's right there as well. Instead of wasting data on your phone, you can just do it on GPS. So I thought of both ways there. So that's an example there. Also, since it's winter, schedules change. I always have sort of like a caveat there for saying that the online schedule is the most updated one, so that the updates that I do as an administrator for the app, I wouldn't have to go back and change, well, this is canceled, so this link would take you right to the whatever schedule you would like, and you could see the online schedule appear, and that is always updated. As you can tell, it'll retrieve the schedule there, and it even has like canceled games, postponements, so that is the real time. And that's my sports example. And now let me navigate over to contact. And this is for Northern Lebanon. This is everything to do with getting a hold of or information pertaining to our specific school district. We have about, we have the school board, which directly hooks up to the website. We have directions. You can get directions to any of the buildings through this site. You can see what the superintendent's up to. You could, calendar is another one here. I get frustrated not always having a calendar. With this app, I have a base version. I have the district one-page version where everything is there. You just need to click and it'll become wider so that people can see it. I also have the full calendar on there and also the Northern Lebanon rec. I also have a link called, let's see, contact board. Yeah, the same thing here is that you can see the district codes there. If you want to call NL, you just simply call, and then you can see the codes that follow. And let's talk about community, which is a big, huge hub. I believe in working together as a community. I think that we could really get to know each other well as a small community. And my idea was to be able to link everything together in one app, the school and community. So I have these little sub-hubs, you could say. I have a restaurant link, and this is the hub for the area restaurants that are just local, not like fast food. This is the Northern Lebanon area. And as you can see, I love history as well as being a health and physical educator. This is a picture from the 1930s of the Fredericksburg Post Office. Dr. Bell might have been around there around that time to verify that. Anyway, so we go from there, and if we click to the left, we can see the different areas of where these restaurants are, just to make it a little easier. If I click on Fredericksburg, now it goes to the 4 areas, and there's more, and they'll be added. But this is a picture of the old Strauss Hotel in 1912, and now it is the Eagle Hotel and Restaurant. So if you click on a restaurant, it'll take you to a separate page for you to get everything there is to know about that restaurant. So if I click on Eagle Hotel, there it is, and there's the up-to-date picture of it there. And the same thing exists. You can one-touch call. I have the hours, everything you need to know. There's an about page. There's an online menu, coupons, and everything you need to know about that restaurant. And the other ones about the area as well. I'll just highlight very, very quickly is about the area. This is a site that is not working, but that's okay. I'll just highlight that later on if it works. Okay, and the last thing I'd like to share with you, maybe 2 more if you don't mind. I also have a feedback page if something were to go wrong, or if there's any information that needs to be changed, you can email me as well by doing the same thing. Let's talk about Aunt Bertha. Aunt Bertha it's a health portal, and my brother Aaron that lives in Texas, and he's the creator of this business. And the theory is Aunt Bertha picks up where Uncle Sam left off. So she is able to get health care or health items for people that cannot or that do not know about and where to get it. So if I were to search Aunt Bertha for this local area to help people, I would search there, and it would automate for this zip code, 17026. And in that area, I would be seeing 522 programs that would serve in this area. So if I were to click on food for this area, I would be able to say if I need a food pantry, I would click on food pantry, and up comes Jonestown Outreach Pantry. and you can get the hours, where it is, the phone number, so that people can be helped in this area, in this way. And there's clothing and all kinds of things to do with this app as well. Transit, money, education, work, legal, everything there is to do about health and social care. So that is a big hub on this. So I would like to give my brother Aaron a big plug as well, because this is going to be going global soon. So we're hoping the best for him to be able to spread the word, because it is a really, really good social and health app. And the last thing is, this app is not only for the community and students, but it's also for the staff. The staff can use this by going on, and they can actually access their Google Drive lesson plans right off the app. But of course you need to be logged into your Google account first before it generates, but that's easy because most people already are. So if I click on my Google Drive, I can access all of my lesson plans from that. There's also online things, Kahoot, Wellness, PowerSchool, and I can even email the tech support very, very quickly. And if there's something I need to, tell them about, it's right there. And so this app is not yet finished, but it's like 90%. And I wanted to let you guys know about it. I'd like to make you aware that it's forthcoming, and that I wanted Northern Lebanon to have it first before anybody else does, because I do expect to expand it a little bit to my area in which I live, where my kids go to school, and I'd like to bring communities together with the school. Anyone have any questions, comments about this that I can answer?
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
How long do you want?
You're changing the source here.
I hate microphones. I just wanted to say something before we get farther into this agenda. I really appreciate, Trevor, you bringing Greg tonight, and Josh last week, Dan Hess. I mean, what they're doing is awesome. That app is just awesome. I also want to do kudos to Mr. Rizzo there. Today I got out of my car in the parking lot, and I saw all these tall guys sitting in cars. I'm thinking, what are they doing here? Strangers in the parking lot. And they got out of their cars, and it was the Lebanon LBC's basketball team. And I happen to know Sam White. I don't admit it often, but he is a relative, okay? And I said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm going in to read to students, our whole basketball team. And Coach McAllister was standing there. And I said, that is so awesome. Well, my third grader, my nephew, that's the first time I saw him run into the building, okay? Because he was so excited. And Dr. Bell, I would hope as a district we could send them a thank you note, because not only did they take out time out of their day to do that, and to, those are the influences I want to see our students have. And I just want to say, I think you probably set that up. I thank you for doing that, because you don't know the impact that it had on those kids, you know, those little kids today. And I was impressed. I was very impressed. So I just want to say I've seen some great stuff these last couple of weeks, and as a board, I know we appreciate that. But today, you know, I wanted to go in, and the only thing he said when he got out of the building today, I guess it's Andy Ward.
He's a big kid.
He's 6'7", and he can dunk. That's all he cared about.
He's one of the top players in the country too. So yeah, there was some really good, not only athletes in there, but they're all phenomenal students. I think out of 14 of the players, I think 6 of them are education majors. So they got a little bit of a benefit being in there too. So yeah, they did a great job. The kids did a great job. The players did a great job.
Well, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Bonnie. And Mr. Saylor, is there anything else on yours? That was plenty. That was plenty. It was good stuff. It was always good when we sit here and we see all the incredible stuff that our teachers and faculty are doing. So thank you for sharing that. We have special presentations under the press book. The high school student of the month for January is Hannah Bungard and Elizabeth Vega. This award is sponsored jointly by the Fredericksburg and Jonestown Lions Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Lions Club. The middle school student of the month for January is Taylor Duple. This award was sponsored by the Northern Lebanon Rotary Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Rotary Club. Our student representative, Haley Reinbold, is under the weather this evening and is unable to attend. Do we have any old business? Okay, we come to our public input session. Amy, do you have your timer on ready? I just have one. Did anybody else have one here? And it has two topics. One is on agenda for the budget 16-17, and then one that we'll address later in the meeting, an off agenda item on school safety. And that was by Nathaniel Thinkin.
Good evening. Good evening. What an amazing presentation by our faculty. They are really the best resource we have at our district. In many cases, they're the glue that holds our district together. I'm speaking tonight, sorry, that's awful, because we're about to adopt a proposed preliminary budget for 16-17. It's not a secret that we don't have contracts yet with faculty. I know that we're working toward that. I think it's only fair, especially given the audit report that was presented tonight and the relative health of the district, that we move post-haste in working toward a contract and achieving labor peace and some cost certainty. Well, it is not fair to say that the increases in current assets was on the back of the teachers. The fact that we didn't have to pay them raises over the last 2 years sure didn't hurt. And so I think it's only fair that we take advantage of our advantageous financial position and compensate our most valuable assets appropriately. I also think it's only fair that while we are in the midst of contract negotiations and don't have labor peace, I think it's inappropriate to offer raises to other employees of the district. And I know that at a previous meeting we adopted increases for administrative staff. There's also stipends and bonuses, reimbursement for health insurance, etc. And as a board, I mean, if you feel that's prudent, then that's for you to negotiate with them. I don't think it's fair that while the teachers are languishing on, I think, year 4 or 5 of the same pay rate, that be happening. And that just seems to violate the sense of fair play. So if the teachers are earning what they made in 2011, and they are, especially after the furlough that was offered in 2011 at the behest of the district because of our situation, it seems only fair that we withhold